Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. In this video, I want to talk to you about anxiety. Okay, I was out getting water. We're getting ready for workshops, and probably by the time that you see this video, workshops may have happened. And depending on when I post, whatever, I'll let you know. We have people coming in to train some martial arts for a couple weeks. It's a summer retreat. I was getting water, and, getting water, like drinking water, because, we have a water cooler. And I was considering, I saw some people coming down the road, and I noticed that, I had a thought about, well, what do they think of me? Or I was looking out at the world and considering, something along the lines of what if other people see me and they don't like it or something like that? And I noticed a feeling that I had about that, and what feeling might call being anxious or something, or fear-based reaction. And noticing how that came about, and it occurred to me to talk about anxiety because I've got a certain orientation where if I hear about something in the psychological domain that people have a problem with, and then I have this image of people going to therapy for 20 years, and I'm like, why are they taking 20 years to handle this? Or it's an ongoing thing, or it just continues, right? And so I'm like, I don't know. Something about that just doesn't ring true for me or isn't right. People having to suffer with anxiety until they die. And so I wanted to do something about it. And this is the video. I'm doing something about it. Sharing some ideas. Sharing some considerations. And the consideration is, okay, look, maybe you've got anxiety. Good. Maybe that's why you clicked on the video. Good. Consider, so now follow along, if anxiety is caused by external circumstances, then you have no control. All right? So now if you are in a world like that, where you look out at the world and it causes you to be anxious, and that's what you say, you're like, yeah, something happened today and it made me anxious. You ever hear anybody say something like that? Or, oh, they did that and it made me anxious. That is already presuming that anxiety is now caused by something that's not inside you. If that's the case, okay, cool. Just realize that you have no control over the matter. It's a done deal. It's not you. It's caused by out there. It causes you anxiety. Cool. It's out of your control. That means you either need to control the situation by manipulating what's out there, or you need to remove yourself from it if you're feeling anxious and don't want to feel anxious. You have to, manage the stuff out there. All right, fine. Manage away. But now that means you have zero control and you're stuck with it. So while you're being stuck with it, or the other idea, maybe you have a lot more control over your mind and your experience than you think. Now, if that's the case and you're willing to entertain that possibility, then good. You're probably in a much better position to do something about it. In either case, whether you are completely dominated by anxiety because it's caused by something that's out of your control, or you think you might be able to control it, in either case, you don't know. I want you to consider that you have an experience. Okay? And let me back up here. So then now for the people where it's out of your control, you might as well take a look at what's going on because you're going to be anxious anyway. You might as well take a look. For those of you that think you can control your anxiety or imagine that you have some idea that you can control your mind, good. You can also investigate the matter. You can take a look. All right? So now let me start by telling a story here, or a little bit of a story, something for you to consider. So start considering. In the martial arts, I've done a lot of martial arts training. I've done a lot of boxing, done some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, done a shitload of Cheng Shin. Okay, I'm a big deal in the world of Cheng Shin. And I've done a lot of training. Now, at the beginning of training or learning any new skill, the world looks a certain way. I see a martial technique, I get a rudimentary understanding of a world. There's just like, I just see stuff happening. Maybe I get a couple things. As I continue to train that technique, I continue to get better. I make finer and finer distinctions, which means, what I mean by that is I start to see a different reality. A different reality starts to emerge. Why? Because I'm training it, I'm immersed in it, I'm looking at it, I'm studying the matter, I'm listening to what other people say, they're telling me to pay attention to different things, where I put my attention matters. And pretty soon, after some training and some consideration, maybe a couple of insights and some breakthroughs, now I'm looking at a completely different world of that technique. This is evident in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for example. White belts and black belts both learn, say, a triangle choke. I use this example when I'm teaching martial arts, which we're about to do some workshops in that. You're invited to come, check the website, navigate, and all that stuff. I teach people, and the white belts and the black belts will learn a triangle choke, for example. It's the same technique, but you know, and for any of you that have done any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know that when a white belt slaps on a triangle choke and gets you in one, it's a totally different ball game than a black belt. Why? Why is it different? Because they're not looking at the same world. They're doing the same technique, but they're coming at it because they're from a different world, which is to say, the black belt makes finer and finer and many, many, many more distinctions about what the reality of that whole thing is, and perhaps setups, ways of getting into it, what to do when somebody tries to counter it. Like they've got an entire art, basically, around that triangle choke, if they're any good at it, right? And a white belt doesn't, because of the distinctions they make, which is to say the reality that they create through training and considering and work. Okay? So it's like these new realities open up. Or a car mechanic. They look under the hood of your car. They see a different world than you do if you're not a mechanic. A painter will look at a canvas. They can see and feel and sense things that you and I, if we're not painters, we have no idea, right? They're looking at a different world. And yet, what about the world of anxiety? We call it fear or anxiety. It's like a weird fear, right? And we usually stop there. We just have a name for something, right? And we go, oh, that's my anxiety. And then we don't go any further than that. As far as I can tell, most people don't. Maybe some do. But then let me ask you, so say you have anxiety, right? And you're watching this video, maybe you are struck by the title, which I will likely intentionally set up while it's about anxiety so I can do that honestly. And then you might be like, shit, I've got anxiety. What's this guy have to say? He looks all right, maybe. And so then you click on it because you want to get rid of your anxiety. And I'm going to tell you, don't get rid of it, get into it. Don't try to make it go away. Try to understand the experience that you live with that you say is negative. For one thing, you're anxious. Yeah, but what is anxious? Like, start to study your experience. What is anxious made of? I know that's a weird question. It's kind of like you look under the hood of a car. It's like, well, what's going on under the hood? Because anxiety, whatever you have at a surface level of anxiety, right? Let me map it out in the objective world, but this is not that way. I'm just giving you a way to think about it. You have some experience, you're anxious, and then about the anxiety, you do stuff, don't you? You avoid this thing, you try to think better thoughts, you take medicine, you go to psychotherapy, you eat the good food to feel better, you avoid these situations, you don't call those people, or you just suffer with it, or maybe you distract yourself by watching some TV shows. But how many of you out there actually go, wait a minute, something's happening. What is that? And start to look at it and like, wow, it's got hairy knuckles a little bit, maybe a little fuzzy, and fingers and fingernails. Like, what's going on? Like, holy shit, how does this happen? And what else in my experience is there that allows for me to have a recognizable awareness of something we call anxiety? This is like, oh, I'm recognizing something I call anxiety. Yeah, well, what are you recognizing? A feeling. Yeah, but how does that feeling get to be? Well, I don't know. It's just there. Yeah, how? Well, somebody else caused it. Okay, cool, fine. If somebody else caused your anxiety or some situation caused your anxiety, fine. What else is there? Is there anything else? Could there be anything else? Or is that just it? Like something happens and you get anxious and that's it? Well, if that's the case, again, you're now in a world of no control and you can't help it. So you're powerless. Now, if you get really honest and you're committed to being honest and you're committed to investigating the matter further, I want to challenge you to query further. Why is that feeling there? There's your sight perception of something that happened. Like, for example, I heard about there's a community that I'm part of, and somebody made an exclamation in that community, and it caused a social uproar because somebody essentially yelled out, and other people experienced something auditorily, likely, because unless they saw the person actually yell, and they had an auditory experience, which means they're hearing, they heard something, and about that something they had a reaction like, oh, this is not good, or oh, I don't like what I heard, or oh, this is triggering something in me, see? And then they go, well, that's bad, and they do something about it, but they don't investigate the entire mechanism. How is it even possible that you could have a reaction to what you hear? There's more, and the reaction is very instantaneous. Like if I hear something and I have a reaction, there's a mechanism at play, and it's something that I don't think about and or really know about because it's so fast. Ergo, it looks like it's caused. But if I study, you see, going back, you remember my story at the beginning about creating a new reality? If I start to study it, I may reveal that there's more going on than just that person yelled and I have a feeling. Yeah? How is it that you have a feeling? I want to assert that feelings don't arise just on their own. There's a framework in place, a structure in place. I'm using the term loosely as a pointer in English, structure or framework. Where you find this structure is in your experience, in your mind. Because it's not an object. There is nothing out there in objects that makes you feel a certain way. It's your internal reaction to the objects that has you reacting. You see, like a reaction. How is it that you get anxious? If it's not caused, there's more going on. Or if you say, well, it's caused, why is it, what are you seeing or hearing that you then feel anxious? Now, what creates your sight to be the way that it is? Do you think the way you see the world is accurate? Or is it your perspective? If it's your perspective, what causes your perspective to be the way that it is? That's not coming from an external source. You cause your perspective to be the way that it is, and you could also, to open you up further, consider other people. Not everybody's anxious the way that you are they? Why? What? Aren't you looking at the same world? No. You think you are? Do you think you are? Well, if that's the case, then what explains the anxiety? How come they're not and you are? Oh, they're just lying about it. Okay, fuck it. You've got it buttoned up. I can't help you there. Buy me some beer or send me some whiskey. Okay. Turn off the video. It's over. But if you're open and you start to get, wait a minute, my perspective is my perspective. Yeah, what causes your perspective to be the way that it is? And why is it different from somebody else? Yeah, because of upbringing. No. That's a story you have. There's still a difference. Why? How? Somehow it's different. What is the mechanism that allows for that difference? Like experientially, not a thought, but what really generates your perspective? And then you start to study. Again, back to the triangle choke. You start to study and wonder and question and learn about your own experience. Experientially, not like what somebody tells you, but what you discover for real. And you may start to uncover some of the stuff, like how anxiety gets to exist. Why the fear? Why that internal feeling of tension? About what? There's my perspective, there's what I see, there's the reaction of the anxiety, and there's a third thing. There's like what allows for the anxiety to come up as a reaction. What's the mechanism driving that feeling? What's really going on there? There's more to the story. What is that? What are you assuming about reality and yourself and other people? Like, for example, social anxiety, what's that all about? That's about other people. And the way, like if I'm anxious in a social situation, for example, and I also did a video about that. You can search it somewhere, social anxiety, or I can link it. That's something to do with others. Now, where do others happen? Others happen in your experience. Whatever you think others are is something that happens in your experience. Why is your experience like that about others? And why are you afraid like that about others? Like, what's driving that experience? Because not everybody shares your experience, and dead people certainly don't have that experience. And you can tell that if their experience goes away, your experience remains, and you're still anxious. Why? See, and then so by this token and my pressing you in a direction, inviting you to consider these things, it should start to reveal that there's more to the story, and I stand on that it is possible to discover the real source of that. So then essentially you can just stop doing it. You can cut it out, finish the job, or go, don't be anxious anymore. You don't need to do that. All right? That's a possibility. Now, some of you may hear this possibility and be like, all right, Brendan, you're being arrogant. Well, I was raised up by Peter Ralston, so there may be some of that, you see. But arrogance aside, that's a reaction that you have about what I said. I want you to consider anxiety itself. Everybody's looking for a solution, and there's like even industries, as far as I can tell, built up to solve that, like pharmaceuticals, tons. They're making probably millions of dollars off of your social fear. What if you could just stop being afraid? They're probably going to they're going to send a hit squad over. I don't know about that guy. Nah, probably not. You see what I'm saying? You can actually investigate your own experience. And I think I'm going to postulate here. Okay, so I'm postulating, total opinionating. All right, this is an opinion, no idea. That there's something about, I don't know, just off the cuff here, imagining something about spiritual leaders or people that are like spiritually powerful, enlightened people that other people take note of, I imagine. And I think part of it is, I don't know, they may be a lot less afraid than other people. Why? Because they've realized the real source of their fear and they let it go. Stopped that. As we would say, stop doing that, stop it. But you can't stop it until you know it, really. Because it might be like a car that's got an engine that's running, but it's in a compartment that you can't see. And this engine's just running, and you don't know why it's running because you can't see in there. So you have to like lift the hood. You have to get intimate with the engine itself. To use that as a metaphor, an analogy, something like that, you see. You've got to get intimate with your own experience and tell the truth about it, get what's really there. And then it may turn out that you're like, oh, wow, I'm running an engine. Look at me. And you just take your foot off the accelerator. But until you find the damn foot, that engine's going to keep running. See, so then in the work that I do here and the work that Peter Ralston does, we invite you to consider these matters in a way like that digs into it rather than avoids it. It's like goes straight to the heart of the anxiety itself with the intent to discover what's really going on. See? And so then you too can have this otherworldly quality of having a presence that is devoid of a lot of fear that most people live with. And, to tell a funny story, I remember learning from Peter back in the day, and he was saying, most people, when they go to order an ice cream cone, are scared shitless. And I remember thinking at the time, what do you mean by that? I'm not afraid when I go order ice cream. There's no fear. But then I did a bunch more work, and I revealed a lot more of what's going on in my experience, and I realized, no, I'm afraid all the time. And it occurred to me, maybe people don't really get that, how afraid they are all the time. And then once the Band-Aid gets ripped off and I go, wow, I am now afraid all the time. I wish I had just remained ignorant. It's a much easier experience, but it's ignorant, see? But now I'm stuck with an experience in the story of all this fear, and then what am I going to do about that? See, and that perhaps is the way of the warrior, to put it poetically. See, it's really going for what's true, and if what's true is I'm afraid all the time, then I've got to square with that. And most people, scared. I can see it. I see it myself in many ways. So it's a common thing. And it does seem to me that one thing that gets rid of a lot of fear is getting conscious. There's a inverse, I don't know if it's inverse, but the more conscious you are, the less afraid you are, because you realize, this is what's real, and fear not so much. Anxiety not so much. Or it's the mechanism gets revealed for what it is, and it's that thing again. Okay, nah, no thanks. But until you get what that mechanism is, it might be a little bit hard to stop. All right. So there you go. Some considerations about anxiety. You can take that to the bank. If you want to honor this channel, or if you want to support the channel, do the work. That's how you can support me the best. I mean, of course, you could give me a bunch of money. I've got courses for that. We do workshops, fair exchange. You'd come do that. That's a very powerful thing to do. But otherwise, if you're not into that right now, you can support the channel by doing the work. It's a little bit here and there, more and more, like these flowers, for example, are from somebody who's really appreciating the work that we do. It's made a difference in his life. So he sent some flowers, which I'm appreciating. I thank you for that. And it's showing up a little bit where people are taking it on, and then they tell me things. I'm like, I love to hear that it's making a difference. Why does it make a difference? It makes a difference when you try it out. It makes a difference when you do it. It makes a difference when you take it on and really try to go for what's true. And it just so happens there's stuff to discover. And in this case, we're pointed at a socially easily available topic called anxiety, which I'm sure a lot of people resonate with, and because it's painful, they want to get rid of it, which is normal. Okay? So that's what I have for you there. If you want to get serious and do some real hardcore work, come here, do a workshop. Please check the links in the description. Navigate my website. You know what to do. Take some action. Check it out. I've got courses. You can hire me to be an online coach. If you want to give me some inspiration, you have questions, you can write me in the forum. And I'm doing monthly Zoom calls. This is group coaching with people that is growing. Well, it's growing because the first time we did it, we had a certain amount of people. The next time, we have a little bit more people. So I'm saying it's growing, and that's a true statement right now, and I hope it continues. All right, so you can check that out on my website. As always, much love. Hit me in the comments. Write me an email. Take care of yourself. Let me know what you discover. Let's put pharma out of fucking business on this whole anxiety medication bullshit. Yeah? Wouldn't that be cool? They could just go put their energy towards something else, like maybe cancer would be a good one. All right, so go out there, fight the good fight, do good work, talk to me, let me know how it goes, and thank you very much. I'm Brendan Lee with thebrendanlee.com in support of Consciousness and Skill Worldwide, which is founded by Peter Rawlinson. Till next time.